So I'm going to begin with the story. About a month ago, I was in Warsaw, Poland. That is where I'm originally from. That explains the weird last name on the slide. And I was there to present at an event. It was an event for young people, about 400 of them between 13 and 16 years old, and maybe 6,000 live streamed from the whole country. Amazing. And I was talking about my work at UNICEF and VR, and it went great. After the event, two boys come up to me, this tall, and they say, "Can we get your autograph?" And I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm delighted, but it's never happened. So I'm like, best speaker in the room, which I'm not, which you will see over the next 20 minutes. So I give them the autographs, and they walk away. But no more than 5 minutes later, I see the two boys, the two rascals, making rounds, asking for autograph from every single speaker that spoke at an event. That's the event. I was like, what the hell? That's not cool. That's not fair. What's happening? So I chased them to see what's up. And we talk, and I asked them where they were from. And they say, we're from this city in eastern Poland, 4 hours away on a bus. It's a very peculiar pride in their eyes. They say, 4 hours away, like one way. Like, have you ever done it? So after talking to them for a while, I realized that the reason why they wanted my autograph is not because they knew who I was or what I was talking about, is because they had no idea. So this is the kind of class that these boys go to. This is one of the groups that were live streaming, and they certainly know how to take a badass group photo, but they've never tried VR. It's not in their lives, it has no presence or meaning for them. So the two boys made me realize that here I am, EU country, not South Sudan, fancy science museum in Warsaw, and it takes 4 hours on a bus, one way, to a place which is a world away from any virtual reality experience. So I work for UNICEF. UNICEF is very much grounded in a real world rather than virtual. We have presence in 190 offices and 190 countries and territories. We have 12,000 staff. Most of them work in the field. And we respond to 300 emergencies a year. And when I joined UNICEF, I didn't know much about it. I thought, some charity, kids. But very quickly, I realized that it's an organization that can actually bring significant impact into the world. Our budget means that we can have pretty good negotiations with some partners, like with Big Pharma, because we buy a third of world's vaccines. Our spread means that we are pretty much in every single corner of the world. And where we are, we have a good relationship with the government. And also our mandate is to fight for the underdog. And the mechanisms we use are not typical sometimes of a 70-year-old UN bureaucracy. So this is the team that I work with, the most wonderful people. Everyone is smarter than I am. And it's not the typical UN team. We come from the world of private sector, startups, research, science. And our task is to look at frontier technologies and see how they can benefit UNICEF's work as a whole. And our thesis is that there is a space between $100 billion technologies and the needs of 1 billion people. We believe that within that space, you can create great business, but there is also an amazing opportunity to bring positive change to the world. So we believe that you can develop those technologies in a way that they kind of, so to speak, construct the technological tissue of the world rather than widen the divide. And do we think that XR is one of those technologies that can add to this tissue? Yes, it's on the slide. But do we also think that this is kind of where XR is today? Yes. And I'm going to come back to this slide. It's too good not to show it twice. So this is XR for change. I assume that everyone who's in this room, or most of us, we wake up with our own set of problems to solve. And this is our running list that keeps us up at night. I'm going to go through it. It's going to get depressing. And I'm going to quote some ridiculous numbers that are just kind of too abstract to conceptualize, I think. So what is this great new world of ours? It's a world where around 1 billion people live in urban slums with no access to health, electricity, health services, electricity, water. It is estimated that by 2050, 70% of people will live in the cities. Cities are just not designed for that. Of all places, this is Buenos Aires, some lands that were abandoned by the government. People started moving in, 2012, 14, 17. This is the kind of speed at which cities develop, and it's a scary speed. We live in a world where 50 million children are displaced. They're on the move because of violence, wars, conflicts. And if you look at the international affairs situation these days, including UN Security Council voting schemes, doesn't seem like this is going away anytime soon. We broke the planet. 500 million children live in the areas that are at risk of high flooding. So we broke it, everyone broke it, but the way we broke it, it affects the poorest the most, as usual. We don't teach young people the right skills. There is this estimate that 65% of children that are entering primary education system these days, their jobs don't exist. How do we prepare for that? And finally, our world is more connected than ever before. Diseases like Zika or Ebola spread rapidly, and that kind of gives us a hint that all those problems that we're listing, these are not problems of some group of people far away. These problems can be our problems at any given moment. So the way our team thinks about our work is not so much as about charity. It's coming together with people like you, with private sector, with technologists, with thinkers, and trying to tackle them. And this was the thinking behind UNICEF Venture Fund. So what is it? It's a pool of $16 million. Actually, it's now closer to 20. We invest only in open source companies. We invest only in companies that are from UNICEF program countries, so no investments into companies from America, Europe, Canada, etc. We invest in spaces of drones, AI, nano, satellites, blockchain, XR, and we don't take equity. Our ROI is the open source component. That's our way to get access to tech stacks and understand them if UNICEF can use them for our programming. The fund is about 2 years old. We've done about 50 investments. Some examples from last year. We opened the first in the world drone testing corridor in Malawi with Malawi government, where we test drones for transportation of vaccines and HIV tests. It's much quicker than on a motorbike, on a dirt road in Malawi. And also we invested in a company from Kenya that uses facial imagery to detect malnutrition in children. Normally you take a child, there's a scale, it's kind of hanging, you have to put the child there. It's super annoying for the child, for the adult, and it's not super effective. This year we turned our focus to XR for 2 reasons. So first of all, we just want to understand if XR and how can help our work. But also we just want to understand where this technology is, because it seems like everyone has an opinion. So we figured we're going to have one of our own. So this is an intermission. So this is iPhone X ad from 2018. It says, say hello to the future. It's very optimistic and it's pretty slick. That's a Nokia Cityman ad from 1987. And it says, because you never know. It's very sad advertising from Europe. And this is HoloLens press kit photo from 2018. So my question to you is, do you see anything interesting between this device and this device? 1987 and 2018, any guesses? No guesses. So I personally don't think that it's entirely implausible that these two devices could be from the same year when you look at them. And if you use a photo of HoloLens that is not a slick press kit photo, but a photo from a guy who's in his 50s from the shower with his HoloLens, I think it's pretty possible that these could be from the same year. And I pray to God that this gentleman is not in this room. So I think the point is that it took a while for the sad Nokia to become a happy iPhone X. And just like that, it will take a while for the HoloLens to become whatever it's going to become. Our thinking is we're not running towards the technology or away from the technology. We're running alongside, but we're trying to run with the guys that are kind of leading the pack to understand it and to see how we can use it for our work. So we do think that XR can help our programming. We think that XR can help our programming in areas such as health, education, and training. We think that already at this stage, UNICEF can contribute to young people learning the language of XR by investing in content creating platforms. And we think that even at this stage, UNICEF can contribute to getting XR to 1 billion people by investing in platforms such as WebXR. So how do we go about it? We're building our XR cohort. We've invested in 3 companies so far, which we are super excited about. And we have about 4 to 5 investments in the pipeline this year. So this is first company that we have. It's Ideas is from Turkey. They're using VR to support treatment of phobias and fears and social adaptation. It's particularly important in Turkey because out of those 50 million children that are on the move, a lot of them are there from Syria. We have Krino Lab from China. They're making a VR maker. It's a tool. It's a content creation tool. You can put together 3D assets, videos, text, sounds. You can build your own VR narrative. And you can also build STEM lessons. And these guys have already shipped to over 50 schools in China, so we're trying to help them develop their product further. And this is Teleport Me, and that's a bear. They're building open source templates, and they're building them in WebVR. And you can remix those templates by using code or simple user interface and create training and educational templates out of them. And the guys, actually, Teleport guys are in the room. Can you raise your hands? They're back there hiding. They are super cool, they are super smart, and you should talk to them if you're interested in WebVR. So I want to stop here for a while. I'm a huge believer in WebVR. And this is the most uninspiring slide from the most inspiring workshop that we had last week. All of the 3 companies came to New York, and we were trying to figure out how to reduce the friction of this technology and actually to get it to all those communities out there. And this is when it got really interesting. This is a map. It's a map of Mauritania, West Africa. So our companies, the companies that we invest in, they understand tech. But we, UNICEF, we understand communities. We need to understand them to bring help. That's why we have a bunch of offices around the world. And we also have a bunch of super smart scientists on our team. So this map of Mauritania is this through their eyes. This is one of our projects. We're trying to map every single school in the world. And we're trying to see how rich or poor in information and connectivity access these schools are. So the triangles, the colors, they show you the level of connectivity. And this really allows us to think big. Because if we connect this expertise that we have with the tech expertise that they have, we can really try to think how to bring systemic change and bring connectivity to those who are really, really disconnected. Because if we think that these guys are kind of on the sidelines, then what about these guys? So how do we get XR to 1 billion people? I think that this might not be the way. Putting a bunch of headsets on a bunch of white men is probably not the way. But this may be. This is a map, another map. I love maps. There's a bunch of pins there. Can anyone guess what the pins are?
UNICEF locations?
No, but kind of close. These are the pins from all of the places where we got our submissions for AR/VR call. If I took that map, if I overlaid it with another map from another call for submissions for blockchain, and then another map for submissions for drones and AI and deep learning, you would get a map with great density of pins in all those places with great density of problems. This is one of the pins. It's a company from the outskirts of Lagos, and this is a conference call, and the connectivity on this call was terrible because they were in their apartment on the outskirts of Lagos. And they were applying for funding from us. And they didn't get it because their prototype was kind of shaky. But we told them to come back to us in 3 or 6 months. But these guys had all the insights and all the knowledge from the field that we didn't. It was amazing. So this is an important map because it's a map of the problems, but it's also a map of the solutions. Because it's just amazing how resourceful you have to be when you face adversity every single day. That slick iPhone X map said, say hello to the future. This is the future. Those bubbles above Africa and Asia, it's amazing how many ideas there are in those bubbles. And if you're running any sort of business, tech business or whatever, if you're not looking at this map, I don't know what you're doing. Like, you're not looking into the future. So at the end of his podcast, Ken Bai always asks the question, what's the ultimate potential of VR? So I think it can go 2 ways. The technology will be there. It's going to be crazy good someday. It's just going to be another amazing distraction. But if we only develop it in our beautiful geographies, it will be just that. Maybe with a few blips here and there that bring some help, something for good for some people. But I believe that if we invest in open source, if we work with local communities, if we design solutions where the problems are, and if we support platforms such as WebVR, this can be a really, really meaningful technology. And it can help solving world's biggest problems. And maybe while we're at it, we can also get it to 1 billion people. Thank you.